the thing is, I do believe there was talk about these things. I believe if we study history, the Confederates were able to shoot pterodactyls, back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online.
Google it
They
yourself.
spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and this got a huge wingway. It was a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so,
what I'm saying is Jesus wrote a dinosaur to work. That's history. It's in the Bible. How to Train Your Dragon.
Historical facts.
And if you don't believe it, do your own research. Pull up Google. You'll find the picture, I promise.
Oh my God.
Thank you, John Gleason, Godless engineer, for gifting me this beautiful moment. Y'all remember when they tried to cancel Steven Spielberg for posing with an animatronic triceratops animal rights activist?
Back it up.
Hit it from the back.
Cloaca. Historical facts.
Eat my ass, BP. You're down here bailing on the rest of us because you don't want to process your grief and shame like a normal person by drinking and mistreating strangers.
No, Rick. It is you who must nibble my cloaca, or bird asshole.
Everyone knows what a cloaca is.
back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and this has got a huge wingway. It's a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so,
Paul Bunyan was sharing some Funyuns with his pet velociraptor.
Whoa.
Oh, you thought it was an ox? Roll back the clock. Let me knock the socks off. Historical facts.
I didn't cut out. You heard me. You a pervert or something? Okay.
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Tonight, we're going to be taking a look at quote-unquote secret, super doubly top secret evidence that the Gospels are eyewitness accounts, and therefore Jesus definitely resurrected from the dead. Now, this is going to be so super secret that these arguments haven't been used in at least 100 or more years. Probably because they're really bad. But, we're here to find out what this top secret, what is it called? Double top secret evidence is? Q-level secret intelligence here? For the Gospels being eyewitness accounts. So, if you want to fuck around and find out what this super secret evidence is, then please stay tuned. All right, heathens. If you guys don't know, the super chats and memberships here help us donate to great causes. I believe we're doing the Equal Justice Initiative. Hold on, I gotta figure it. It's equal.
You got it all together.
Yes, equal. I got it. Equal Justice Initiative. It's based here in Alabama, and it primarily helps get people that have been wrongfully convicted out of prison or jail. It was founded by Brian Stevenson. He's got sort of like a biopic on the, founding of the Equal Justice Initiative, where he helped get some pretty wrongfully convicted people out of prison. This made the news some years back, and Michael B. Jordan actually played Brian Stevenson in the movie. So that's what clued us in last year to start donating to the Equal Justice Initiative. And so we're going to be donating there this month to help people that are wrongfully convicted get out of prison. So if you want to help us do that, definitely, contribute. In the coming months, though, we will be donating to like the Trevor Project and the Transgender Law Center. Those are pretty big staples for the channel here. So we really hope that you guys can help us donate more money to those charities in the future. So now with all of that out of the way, we are going to be doing a full lineup tonight of the show. Full slate tonight. We've got some news to go over. We got some comments to go over. Bro Cephas is going to stop by and explain some flat earth shit. And then we're going to get to the video. The video is kind of short, so maybe it won't take too long. Maybe it will. I am going to be preaching from the pulpit a little bit tonight. Before we begin the video and probably while we're reviewing the video. So, we've got a full show. So let's hurry on up to the news, shall we? Perfect. Shitty news segment. You're gonna learn some shit you wish you could never hear again. I don't know. At least that's how I feel about it. All right, so let's get on over here. Let me. All right, I just put it in the chat there. Hopefully I put it in the chat. A link to the store. Maybe not. Maybe this is fucking broke. Probably. Yep. Apparently it's broke. Yep, those buttons are broke. I was going to put a link to the store where you can get a shirt just like this. Keep this wall. We need to keep the separation of church and state. And tonight is going to be a prime example of why we need to do this. All right. Let me get my notes. Hold on. I've got notes for the news. So that way I don't like fuck shit up and everything like that. All right. So first up on the news, more tub of shit. I don't know if you guys know, but Tub of Shit is one of my senators. I believe Tub of Shit is. Yes, he's my senator. Tub of Shit is my senator, and he is just very embarrassing. So the state of Alabama's perpetual embarrassment, Tommy Tub of Shit, seen here watching trans people simply exist, and for some reason it's crushing his soul. Along with Dale Strong, Gary Palmer, Robert Adderholt, and Mac Butler. Yes, I'm trying to shame these individuals. Normally I don't do that, but I feel like this time it's a bit warranted. But all of them have demanded that a private North Alabama business unjustifiably fire an employee for just simply existing. This is no shit story. It was the hit all over the internet. This story hits particularly close to home for us because we are local to the Space and Rocket Center and Space Camp. And to hear our government officials that supposedly represent us, sorry, I got all fucked up in my script here. So to hear that government officials that represent us have basically called for some kind of hit job on a trans employee is infuriating us, is infuriating to us. First of all, fuck Tub of Shit. Okay, especially for portraying his illegal call to action as protecting kids. He doesn't give a shit about protecting children. He really doesn't care about his constituents at all. And this has to be a fact of reality because I don't see any of these cowards that I've listed here introducing legislation or issuing a call to action to protect kids from, let's say, youth pastors, guns, Christian daycare providers, or abusive Christian foster parents. They refuse to provide children with better access to health care, provide a minimal amount of appropriate sex education, or allow raped children to the option to have an abortion when their uncle impregnates them via grape. If they cared about children, they would do those things. Those are things that would actually protect children. Instead, they cry about a trans person existing at space camp because one bigoted parent has a personal issue with trans people in general. Fuck that guy, fuck tub of shit, fuck Dale Strong, Gary Palmer, Robert Adderholt, Mac Butler, and anyone else out there that thinks that this person just simply existing is a danger to children. And all of this comes on the heels of the Nex Benedict in Oklahoma. They ended up committing suicide. At least that's what the coroner or the autopsy revealed. And the final conclusion of their investigation was that Nex committed suicide. Nex was a trans youth that had been bullied for more than a year prior to their suicide. And the representative, a state representative in Nex's state, actually said that I represent a constituency that doesn't want that filth here. And this was directly after Nex had committed suicide. So this is an increasing problem, and it seems to be one problem that's getting even more popular. Now, also, fuck that Oklahoma state senator or representative, whatever the fuck he is. He's a piece of shit. All right, end of the lighthearted portion of the show. I got it off my chest. Fuck all them fucks. Next up is a holy war. I hope you had holy war on your bingo cards for 2024, because Oklahoma State Senator Dusty Davers.
I don't know if y'all know this, but when you get to heaven,
Professor
your
Sargent
moral
said
actions are
emailed
not
yesterday regarding
judged. You're
ideas
only
for
judged for
collaboration. It's not too
believing
late.
in
It's
me.
definitely not too late.
Thank you.
Professor Sargent, thank you so much for sending me that email. I just haven't had a chance yet to actually respond to you, but I plan on getting back to you. So, Oklahoma State Senator Dusty Davers, seen here gleefully watching the summary execution of every non-Christian in America, has called for a religious war on America, or at least on citizens of America. So sorry, I gotta adjust my notes here. He's claimed that the Christian warrior king has summoned all Christians to wage war on his behalf. He's urged all Christian men to fight Jesus' battle with Jesus' weapons. I'm guessing that means like a sword and like harsh words, maybe? I'm not exactly sure. But in any case, weapons was called for. He also called for an offensive assault against the quote-unquote gates of hell, wherever in the fuck that might be. Might actually be that hell. Isn't there like a hell in Michigan or something like that? There's a hell in a lot of different places. Michigan is hell. Dusty Devers wants to wage war on Michigan. I feel like that's confirmed here.
You know where Heaven's Gate is, though.
Oh, we do know where Heaven's Gate is, huh?
It's in Indonesia.
It is. It's in Bali, Indonesia. That's where Heaven's Gate is. That's right, honey. He also said that they are called, like all Christians, especially Christian men, because he's a misogynist, are called to push the dynasty and dominion of their king to everyone, and claim that every enemy of Jesus will bow to God, which received an ominous amen from a group of men in the ominous, like good little robots. He proclaimed that people considered the, quote, enemy of God will be footstooled, which means that they will basically be oppressed, humiliated, and vanquished eventually, apparently. I mean, I think he's living in the Charmed series universe where you vanquish motherfuckers, but anyways. He overemphasizes that the world will be conquered for, quote, King Jesus, which sounds really weird to me, to be quite honest. This kind of rhetoric is the same kind of rhetoric employed by extreme right-wing activists calling for a holy war on the non-extremist Christian portion of America. Well, non-extremist Christian and non-Christian portion of America, rather. This is just another piece of evidence of the growing radicalization of the Christian right. the more that these people are propped up and put into positions of power, like Dusty fucking Devers here, it is more likely that a second violent attempt to overthrow the American government not only will occur, but it will more than likely succeed. I feel like Dusty being in office, not being kicked out for basically calling for a religious war, is a really bad sign for the future. And I feel like if there's ever going to be a dipshit general in this holy war against the non-Christians and Christians they disagree with, he's probably going to be the second lieutenant or whoever. The dude that follows the main guy around and just does wherever he wants. Like, I feel like that's who Devers is. Anyways, that's enough of Devers there. Fucking Devers. Daniel M says, David says good night. Good night there, David. I hope you have an awesome weekend there, bud. And I guess we'll see you next week. Thank you so much, Daniel M, for sending in a super chat. We don't seem to have any over there on the vertical stream, which we're still doing 2 streams, just because, you know, people seem to like watching it on the vertical, at least a little bit. Anyways, that's it for Dusty Devers. Next up, Biden is evil. Did you know that, honey? Biden's evil. Yeah. Fuck, evil as shit.
Biden's not.
Oh, yeah, well, that's Dark Brandon behind him, but, you know, Dark Brandon's the real puppet master, I guess. Anyways, white Christian nationalist Erik Metaxas, seen here on vacation in the pits of hell where his soul was forged by the forces of darkness thousands of years ago, referred to the State of the Union speech where Biden talked about unifying the nation to better ourselves and empower Americans to succeed as a, quote, satanic speech. The same speech where Biden discussed providing lower prescription costs, providing lower prescription costs, giving teachers raises, protecting the border, and many patriotic messages, along with replacing lead pipes that supply drinking water, and just in general equality, and many more positive things. He proceeded to call Joe Biden a puppet of the devil, despite the fact that Erik Metaxas is an immortal, inhuman entity forged in the fires of hell by the devil himself. Metaxas called for the lowering... Metaxas called the lowering of prescription drug prices and giving teachers pay raises horrifyingly malevolent. He also claimed that Joe Biden's call to replace lead pipes that supply drinking water to communities proves that he is, quote, so stupid that he'll kill you. The fuck is wrong with Metaxas? To add to this, Metaxas also claimed that the many patriotic messages about unifying the nation instead of dividing them were, quote, destructive and evil. I feel like this can only show how destructive and evil, if we can use that word here. I don't necessarily believe in evil things, but evil white Christian nationalists are, especially for a guy that looks like he's about to be the father of Gilead's financial system that's based on the trafficking and enslaving women. I mean, whenever I see him, I see the same guy that developed the economic system in Handmaid's Tale. I mean, I don't know what it is, but it's probably just his general demeanor. He looks like he's about to enslave women for, you know, profit. Anyways, that's it for that evil fuck right there. And that's it for the news tonight. I hope that you guys enjoy our dystopian future that we're probably careening towards right now. The only way that we can avoid all of this bullshit is if you vote. Not for the Christian nationalists. Don't vote for them because they want to change our American government into a more theocratic government, even if they don't want to admit that. Don't vote for them. I'm not saying don't vote conservative or don't vote for Republicans, but a lot of the fucking Republicans right now are being very Christian nationalisty, and they are all, and the ones that aren't are bowing down to the ones that are. So just keep that in mind and vote whenever you go to vote. All right, so that's it for the news. Y'all ready for your ears to bleed? I know I'm ready to cause them to bleed because now it's time for comments of the day. Prepare to facepalm yourself in the next week. Hey, that was actually like not in tune, and I got all the words right the first time. Can y'all still hear me? Their ears bleed. I don't know why, but apparently it's just horrible for me to sing shit. Anyways, the only thing that matters is that you like it. All right, let's get on over here. First up on the comments is this horrible meme shared by a Christian. I was struggling with whether or not I should put this up because of the representation on it, but I feel like it's very indicative of how depraved a lot of Christians are out there. Maybe not a lot, but the ones that are very vocal are fucking this dipshitty right here to put this out. Like, this is really offensive, but I wanted to address it. So this person said, I'm an atheist because I actually read the Bible. And I've read the Bible, and therefore I am an atheist. Like, the road to atheism is paved with discarded Bibles, like Bibles that have been read and then discarded because it's bullshit. But obviously this person wants to act like that's just ridiculous. I don't know why, but they think it's ridiculous. So the Chad over there, I guess, dude, you don't even know how to distinguish between ritual purity and moral law. In fact, neither does the Bible, because in the Bible, it doesn't actually distinguish between the two. I mean, sure, it has sections where it talks about things that are later identified as ceremonial and other things that you could potentially label as moral, like laws, but there's no actual internal distinction that's made in the Old Testament or even in the New Testament, really. It's all considered part of the moral system that's established by the Bible.
That's KC's money.
Yeah, I forgot to put the notifications over that. Let's see. Let me move that down right there. Okay. I don't know what else was selected over there. Shit. Okay, I guess we'll find out later. All right, so Daniel M says, we just love hearing you shred on the U. God, poopy ass but science! All right. So, yeah, the Bible doesn't actually make this distinction. Actually, the distinction that's made is actually an apologetic that's developed much later in order to differentiate between these quote-unquote ceremonial laws and these moral laws, or the things that Christians want to hold on to out of the Old Testament, and then there's the things that they don't. So, that's the distinction that is kind of being made there, I guess. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me to distinguish them in that kind of fashion, but that is an apologetic that a lot of Christians use in order to justify why they can, shuck some of the Old Testament laws that are really horrible, because that was written for a specific people, at a specific time, at a specific place, and therefore I can just disregard it. When this is not what Jesus said. Jesus didn't say that shit. Nobody said that shit. I mean, that's an apologetic that's developed much later. And I actually, I thought of this naturally, but I saw Dan McClellan, who is a biblical scholar, he a New Testament scholar. He was in the comments of this particular meme right here and, elucidated on that. And so, like, that's not just some, like, weird fucking thing that I'm saying. Like, this is the mainstream view of that. So, anyways, that's it for that dumb meme right there. Next up, we've got Dan Blows. That's an appropriate last name there, Dan. Another straw man. Yeah, I'm good. Sorry, I choke on bullshit all the time. Effortlessly destroyed. Dinosaurs are in the Bible, and Australia only became an island after the flood. So, one more giant fail for the clueless engineer. No, Dan, this is not a fail on my part. This is most notably a fail on your part there, bud. Number one, Australia wasn't always a continent. Not he seems to think that Australia is an island. I mean, I'm fairly certain that Australia is a whole ass continent, right? Like, yes, it's a whole ass continent. So there's one thing, I guess you could describe it as an island. I don't know. Okay. I mean, like I could, an island continent. Okay, I could see that. So maybe that's not too much of a bad thing there. It's weird to describe it as an island. I guess I would describe it as a continent. Anyways, so dinosaurs are not in the Bible. There are things in the Bible that later apologists have identified as dinosaurs, but that's because we discovered dinosaurs, and so they're like, oh shit, they need to be in here. Oh fuck, look, the dragons are actually dinosaurs, and so that's how they explain it. There was no flood. There's no evidence of a flood, so you're going to need to provide evidence for that, but I can already tell you that all that evidence is not going to support your conclusion, so there's another fail. And so therefore it's not effortlessly destroyed, and it's not a fail for the godless engineer, or clueless engineer as he's calling me here. This is just another attempt for, somebody to try to assert their dominance over me to make them feel better or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, weird flex here, bro, but it's not working for me. Next up is Rodney Mark Harrison. Rodney, who says, logical argument, can you prove to me that you exist? I mean, I don't know what the purpose in that would be. Like, I don't know why I have to prove my existence. I mean, well, I'm right here, but for somebody on the other side of the stream or other side, they can see me, but who's to say it's not some kind of AI generated thing? What? You're trying to tell me no AI would be as ridiculous as I am? People have seen me in real life. I mean, I could meet somebody. I've met plenty of people. People have talked to me over, over Google Meets. We have a meet every month for the Skeptic Mafia ish. I mean, I've been doing pretty good so far this year. But yeah, so I mean, I could easily prove that I exist. Like, there's several different ways I could prove that. Your birth certificate is not counted as evidence. Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't planning on using my birth certificate. That seems to be a bit personal, but whatever. Yeah, I would not do that. There's several ways that I could verify that I actually exist as a person, but I feel like for somebody that's hell bent on not accepting that I exist, I don't know what kind of evidence I could provide him. Like, I could go up to him and Rochambeau him in the balls, but I mean, he would be like, "You're all in my head." And so, like, that just makes me think, well, why is he kicking himself in the balls now? Like, what did he do to himself? Anyways, I don't know. So, continue on. I don't see any writing pertaining to your existence that has filled the world like the scriptures. Well, Rodney, there's nothing that, as far as you're concerned, you don't exist in that particular aspect. Like, as far as the scriptures go, like one of the most circulated books in all of history, yeah, nobody's talking about me. I'm talking about myself to, some strangers on the internet, other people that I know, so, I mean, I don't understand why this is a criteria. This seems like an impossible criteria to levy against somebody for the thing that you're wanting evidence for. Like, I don't require, like that kind of evidence for anything else. Also, that's not even a good metric in which to judge the truth by. Because sure, scriptures, like the Bible, has been all over the world, like all through time. It's still surviving today as far as the interpretations and the translations that we currently have. We don't have anything hard, like full, complete set of a Bible before 300, I believe, the 4th century. And so, I mean, yes, it has survived, but that doesn't mean that whatever's in the book is representative of reality. It's obviously not, but I'm just saying this isn't a good metric in which to judge truth by. Who are you? I'm John, the Godless Engineer. Who are you, Rodney? He's Rodney. And he wrote this comment on his 3rd Budweiser. Oh, wait, no, they hate that shit. What is it? Pabst. On his 3rd Pabst. Pabst are kind of transphobic, so that's probably why you would pick a Pabst there. What have you done? I mean, today I spent about 4 or 5 hours playing Fallout 4, and then I got the stream ready tonight, and then I played poker. Somebody sounded interested in watching me play poker because I said I was getting pretty good at it. I came in third today in the little tournament. Like, I got a game that I play. I came in third. So Casey helped me get there. But yeah, so that's what I did. What'd you do there, bud? Oh, Casey worked. I was off work today. I know what Jesus has done. Oh, okay. Good for you. Like, there's multiple billions of people in the world that have heard the Jesus story, so I don't see how this is relevant to the conversation. Like, just because a lot of people have heard the story doesn't mean that it's true. I'm just saying. But I don't believe you are who you say you are. Okay, well, I don't really give a fuck if you believe me or not. My name's John. I post shit on the internet to anger you, apparently. If Jesus did not exist, then exist even less. What? I mean, I feel like something happened there. Like, I don't know what happened. Maybe he hit his fourth beer. But if Jesus did not exist, then exist even less. I don't know what you're trying to say right there. I don't believe that Jesus existed. In fact, on Monday, I'm actually giving a talk on the Recovering from Religion Foundation channel and about mythicism, basically covering the very basics of the idea and why I'm not convinced that Jesus was a historical person. So I'll be sharing that on the community tab, so just be on the lookout for that. But I am going to be giving that talk. I got to get that slideshow prepared tomorrow or Sunday, whichever one. I've already got it written up. I just got to put it in a slideshow so that it looks all nice and pretty. Anyways, that's going to be it for Rodney there. Next up is Banks Upshaw, who says, please enlighten me about how to verify or falsify the existence of God. Okay, well, I don't know what kind of evidence would be able to prove that a God exists, but I mean, we would need to be able to verify that the evidence actually supports a conclusion. So there's that thing. First off, as how to verify it. I don't know what that evidence would look like, but it's also not my job to know what that evidence should look like. If there's some evidence out there that would convince me, then, I mean, present it and it might convince me. I really don't know how to answer your question here. Just provide evidence that actually supports the conclusion. But I feel like you have a lot of steps to complete in between those two. First, like, you got to prove the supernatural exists, or you gotta prove that an extra reality exists, like another layer on top of reality where God would exist, or anything like that, or falsify the existence of God. Yeah. Do you? Okay. Then I feel like it's a foregone conclusion. I mean, it's like in June, so, I mean, whatever. Yeah. Just don't spend $5,000, I guess. Sorry, we're buying tickets for a comedy show. So, falsify the existence of God. What we need here for this particular one is, first, a specific definition of God. If you're going to make claims about your God, then we can definitely provide falsification criteria for that. That's basically how you do science, right? So if you make specific claims about God, then we can falsify it. But, we could falsify that, that God exists. Like, for instance, with the Yahweh God, we can falsify that God exists. You just take a look at the Bible being the handbook of this God, describing this God. If reality doesn't operate in the ways that the Bible describes, then more than likely that God doesn't exist, at least a literal interpretation of it. Maybe a God similar to it exists, but we would actually need more specific claims in order to be able to test to see if that God breaks anything that we actually experience in reality. So, I mean, we would just need very specific claims in order to falsify it. But this is a very basic concept in science, you know, and how to falsify things. So I feel like, you know, you do a lot better perhaps Googling, I don't know. But if you're just going to come with general ass, like, prove God don't exist, yo, I feel like you're going to need a lot more than that. It's like, well, I can't disprove, like, any God, like, just, you know, an amorphous blob out there that apparently shit out the universe. Like, I mean, there's no way that I can disprove that. Like, it's unfalsifiable, which makes it, which has its own problems in general. But I'm just saying you would need more concrete claims in order for me to falsify what you're talking about. But I mean, I will invoke Hitchens' razor here, that if you assert it without evidence, or if you assert something without actually proving it, then I can just dismiss, like, whatever your claim is. Like, I mean, I could talk about the pink polywogs that crawl up your ass and explode at night, but if I don't provide any evidence for it, then there's no reason for you to believe in it, and no reason to take me seriously. So close up your butt cheeks at night, because those pink polywogs are going to climb up there and explode. Finally, oh, that's the one that was doing it. Let's see. There. Okay. Just had to fix the positioning there. Preserving your harvest. Y'all think science can prove the existence or non-existence of God? Mind you, I didn't post anything remotely like that. Like, I didn't say that, you know, God can be disproven with science, but I do feel like we can easily disprove specific claims about God. And if you have specific definitions of God, then we could potentially disprove those. Again, like, for instance, the Abrahamic God of the Quran, we can easily disprove that God exists. So, I mean, I feel like if you have specific claims, we can investigate those claims, and I can give you reasons as to why you're wrong about it supporting your conclusion. But as far as, like, just the generalized statement of, you think science can disprove God? Ha ha ha. Like, that is a ridiculous statement, and there's no way for anybody to answer that, really. So, I mean, this is just kind of a throwaway comment. I feel like it's an uninformed way to ask a specific question, but instead of asking a better question, they chose to go with this. All right, well, that's going to be it for the comments tonight. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I know I did. I have to go get Brocephus now, so I hope you guys are ready for Brocephus to give you guys some shit about flat Earth. I think he's talking about flat Earth right now. I don't know why. This is what he picked. Don't let him tell you anything different, okay? He picked this, all right? This is all him. Brocephus!
Shitty ass science! We're gonna answer some science shit really wrong.
Don't you tell me I can't take his blankie.
You will not take his blankie.
What else am I gonna do? He keeps calling me dipshit and everything like that. Like, come on now, I gotta have something.
I mean, he is rude.
Yeah, don't you take my blankie, you dipshit. Oh, okay. So no chastising for him?
You all just need to be kinder to each other.
Well, you know, be kinder to him.
Yes.
I really don't like that plan. I think I'm going to continue giving him shit all the time.
I don't care. You're going to be nice to him.
What? Why?
I will beat the shit out of both of you.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, if you're going to pull out that particular whipping stick, I guess I'll just come right back on over here, check all this shit out. All right. What's up, y'all heathens? You're going to hell yet? Maybe you will. Oh, he hasn't even taken a drink of his whiskey yet. We've only got Chattanooga whiskey in this house right now because that alcoholic done drank all the rest of it. No, that ain't true. We got tequila. Jonathan Hanachek, before we get started on this bullshit, says, Brocephus, just so you know, not everybody here hates you. Some of us really love the content you bring to this community, and please keep up the hard work and annoy GE all you can. I IRM KC is always right. Casey's always right. So Casey's going to whoop my ass later. I'm just saying. That's what she said. Anyways, I hope y'all are going to hell sometime in the future, and I guess we'll get started with this flat earth shit. Let's see. This is the moon map, geocentric Earth universe model. The moon is showing us the surface of our realm and the celestial dome above us. What the fuck? There's a celestial dome above us, and the moon is a map of it. You know, I don't know if y'all know this, but there's actually a hairless gorilla on the Sea of Tranquility that gives free hand jobs. So I guess maybe you can see him up there in the dome. The surface of the Earth is like an X-ray image in the focal point of light that is our moon. The celestial dome is like an MRI image of the celestial dome above. The surface of the Earth is like an X-ray image. I don't think these people know how X-rays work, because that's not how X-rays work. Like, the surface of the Earth is not an X-ray image. Like, that's just simply not how X-rays fucking work. And the focal point of the light that is our moon, the focal point of fucking what? What's shining? Is the moon plasma and shining? The celestial dome is like an image. Now it's magnetic resonance imaging. Also, you don't need image afterwards, because MRI is, let me make sure that I'm correct here. MRI meaning, see, it's easy to Google shit, and if these people would just Google shit. Yes, MRI stands for magnetic resonance imaging. So basically, this dipshit right here is saying the celestial dome is like an magnetic resonance imaging image. You don't have to use the image afterwards. It's just MRI. That's a pet peeve of mine. Anyways, let's continue. The celestial dome, blah, 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 bullshit. We have rockets that have went to the moon, you fucking asshole. I know armored skeptics out there saying we didn't go to the moon and shit, and he's acting like, oh, this is just fun. But Greg's a dipshit now, okay? You can take that to the bank, all right? This is coming from a good Christian boy, so you know that I know a dipshit when I say him, and Greg's a dipshit. I've met the motherfucker in real life, too. Basically, the moon is two images overlaid in one focal point. Well, where the fuck is the evidence for that? Come on now, I have the Bible as my evidence for Jesus and why I should suck his dick. Where is the evidence for the moon being two images overlaid onto one focal point? And I can guarantee you don't even know what the fuck that means, because you don't know what X-rays are. You don't know what an MRI is, you dumb son of a bitch. Same shit, different day. Think of it as reacting to the electromagnetic radiation, like film does to light in old cameras. No. The surface of the Earth is a sphere, and there's actual shit on the Earth. It's not like an MRI image or an X-ray or anything like that. Like, this just doesn't make any kind of fucking sense. Like film does to light in old cameras, you capture the energy onto the film. You capture the energy onto the film? I don't know how that translates to the fucking Earth. Like, none of this makes sense. I have no idea where they're going with this. Then process those negatives to make the picture. Who fucking processes the negatives? If the Earth is the negative, who processes it into an actual fucking picture? Does God do that every moment he farts? Like, is that what happens here? Or does it happen whenever God wipes his ass? I mean, I'm just kind of curious who's developing these fucking negatives into full-ass pictures that is the Earth. Also, what the fuck are we even talking about here? Like, I have no fucking clue at this point. Like, none of this actually applies to anything in reality. The negatives would look very much like the last three pictures before processing them. It is the best model to explain our realm. No, it's definitely not. Hold on. Let's take a look at this shit. I'm going to fix it for you vertical fucks over there here in 1 second. Okay. The fuck am I looking at? So he's got 8 more pictures. Obviously the answer's in those that aren't shown, but I don't like what he's just overlaying the moon on top of the earth and what? Oh, because there's to him it looks like there's similar features on the moon, I guess. I really don't know what the fuck I'm looking at here. Have you ever had somebody be like, listen, man, okay, I know the government's spying on me. Look at these 2 pictures right here. You see, that proves it. It's like, dude, these are from a Playboy. What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, I feel like it has just as much relevance, whatever the fuck this person's saying right here, because I don't see it. Anybody else in the comments here that can help me? Fuck is the plasma earth shit, the great dark room of space. Yep, what film? I'm exactly right there with you. What fucking film? I have no fucking clue. God's 1 hour photo and holography. Hey, I said holography right. Look at there. That deserves a drink. He might be, but at least he won't take my blanket. I get to keep my blankie. Anyways, I don't know what in the fuck this is talking about, so I guess I'm going to head on out of here. This seems like a whole bunch of nonsense. And Raven lunatics usually make any kind of sense. So there you go. Raven lunatic shit. Hope you like your Friday night. I'll see you heathens later. I hope you go to hell sometime soon. Bye, y'all. What? That's how I sign off. I hope y'all go to hell.
Sometime soon?
Well, yeah, sometime soon. I mean, we've been saying it for like 3,000 years or something, right? 2,000 years. I don't know how to do math.
I know.
Did you drink my whiskey? I was saving that for the video. Well, you know, you shouldn't have left it up here, dipshit.
Hey.
I'm sorry. You shouldn't have left it out or I wouldn't have drank it. Bye. I'm going to go snuggle up with my blankie. You give him too much power with that blanket. Him and that blankie don't have a healthy relationship. I'm just saying. He needs to go somewhere. Like a therapist. Okay, yeah, I'm in agreement with Bro Sivas about this. Like, I don't understand what these images are, how they relate, other than the pareidolia of, like, the darker spots on the moon. He lines them up so that they look like they're representative of some kind of formations on the Earth, but you could tell that it's not like they don't fit. Like, he's overlaid them to make it seem like they fit, but they really don't fit. Like, that's not fitting. Like, that's bullshitting. That's all that is. And I don't even know how to process the rest of this fucking shit in this thing. Like, I don't know what in the fuck all that's about. But, you know, crazy is as crazy does. All right. So, that's going to be it for the shitty-ass science portion, or the poopy butt science. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. Make sure you pick yourselves up a Keep This Wall shirt. I don't know if anybody has it. If you do, great. If not, pick up one. It doesn't have to be mine, but I feel like we definitely need to promote the separation of church and state. So consider all that. All right. Y'all ready for the video tonight? Casey's ready. Casey's ready to be done with all of this bullshit. She's like, fuck it. Yeah.
In Luke's story,
it was the secret proofs, right? Yep. We got secret proofs. Okay. Let's get on over here. Booyah, 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 booyah. Fuck yeah. All right. So, before we get into the video tonight, I do want to take y'all to the pulpit. Yeah, will y'all come to the pulpit with me? I don't think I have a button on here for the pulpit. Oh no, I'm gonna have to do the poor thing and like actually click the scene. Oh, I forgot to add or turn on the. Oh shit, I'm fucking big. I don't know if you've got the vertical pulled up.
Huh? Oh, the vertical?
Yeah.
No, I don't even have it pulled up on my phone at all.
Oh, okay. She's like, fuck vertical. Fucking hate that shit. All right, so welcome to my pulpit. I'm the hillbilly preacher. We won't be praying to start out with because I don't suck the dick of people that commit genocide. Just saying. So, tonight's video is going to be covering the trial of Jesus. And apparently there's an undesigned coincidence between Luke's gospel and John's gospel that apparently corroborate both of them. And that is going to prove that the gospels are eyewitness accounts. And now, Erik from the Testify channel would say that this is a cumulative case. No one particular example is the entire case. So it's like all of these examples piled on top of each other are what make the case. But I kind of feel like if you stack shit 6 feet high, at some point it's just going to crumble and fall. And that's exactly what the undesigned coincidences argument does. It attempts to take shit, stack it as high as it can, but ultimately it's stacked shit. Okay? It doesn't support anything. It smells horrible. And, you know, you've just got Ian Malcolm being like, that's a big pile of shit right there. And so, we're going to be going over, first off, we're going to be going over the trial of Jesus before Pilate. It's different in all four gospels. And we're going to read them so that you can see the differences. But there's not only a difference in that, but there's a difference in what happens after this supposed trial concerning Barabbas. All right. So we're going to go through the evolution of this. Now, obviously, I am in agreement with the majority of scholars out there that place Mark first, being written between 65 and sometime in the 70s. And then after that, Matthew was written, who copied off of Mark. Mark obviously used Paul's work in order to inform his gospel prior to that. And then Luke came about the 90s, late 90s or so. He used both Matthew and Mark in order to write his gospel. And then John coming in at the end, in the 2nd century, he used definitely Luke's gospel, if not all of the other gospels, in order to write his account. So the subsequent gospel authors all knew the previous gospels. And for Mark, he knew the previous apostles that were teaching at the time and what they were teaching and saying about Jesus. So all of this is to lead up to talking about the trial of Jesus before Pilate. There's a couple of key things you need to understand before we head into this. First off, it was perceived by these 1st century Jewish Christians that the Old Testament, the Septuagint, specifically contains specific verses that could be reinterpreted. So that's reinterpreted, not that they were always interpreted this way, but they were reinterpreted by these 1st century Jewish Christians to mean something else, to illuminate information about the Messiah. One of those particular things is that before the Messiah's accusers, he would remain silent. This is something that's said, I can't remember fucking where, in the Old Testament, but it's said about Israel, and therefore they interpret it to be about the Messiah. And so there's that aspect of it. There's also this aspect of Barabbas and the Jews choosing Barabbas over Jesus and having them crucify Jesus. This is basically a replacement for the Yom Kippur ritual. The Yom Kippur ritual, what you do is you take 2 goats. One of them is fucked, right? The other one gets set free with the sins of Israel, like on its back or something. I don't know. Maybe they tagged it. I don't know. I don't know how it happened, but basically one would go free with the sins of Israel on it, and the other one would be sacrificed to cleanse the sins of Israel. And so the whole choice between Jesus and Barabbas is actually this particular ritual in Judaism, and that's one is killed in order to cleanse the sins of the nation of Israel, or in the case of Judaism, it's to cleanse the sins of the individual, and the other one is let go to carry the sins of Israel off into the wilderness or whatever in the fuck. And it just so happens that the names here are very important because Jesus Christ is basically a very prophetic name that is derived from Jehovah, which means he's connected to God. Barabbas also means that he is connected to God. Like the name Barabbas is deeply tied to this notion of being the son of God specifically. And so what you have are two sons of God. One is set free with the sins of Israel on its back or whatever in the fuck, and then the other one is killed to cleanse these sins. And so those are the two things. That's where they get this whole idea from. That's why it resonated with these early Jewish Christians, is because they recognize these rituals. They recognize these scriptures. It's like, well, the scriptures say that Jesus wouldn't say anything. And so therefore, look, Jesus didn't say anything and everybody's fucking amazed about it. So we're going to go through all four stories at the very beginning of this, and then we're going to get to the video because the video is pretty short. I don't really have too much to say about it because it's all bullshit. Like I said, Ian Malcolm, that's a lot of bullshit, kind of thing. So anyways, we're starting with Mark. This is Mark 15. Jesus delivered to Pilate. And soon it was, and as soon as it was morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and scribes and the whole council, and they bound Jesus and led him away and delivered him over to Pilate. And Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And he answered them, "You have said so." And the chief priests accused him of many things, and Pilate again asked him, "Have you no answer to make? See how many charges they bring against you." But Jesus made no further answer, so that Pilate was amazed. I mean, I'm going to have to call bullshit. I don't see how somebody's like fucking amazed over somebody remaining silent. I mean, if you get picked up by the police, you don't say shit unless you got a lawyer with you, okay? I'm just telling you right now, free dad advice. Ask for a lawyer immediately. Don't say shit to the police. Sorry, I'm changing it out real quick. I didn't have time to connect them and everything like that. Cool shit that I do. So I've got to do them individually here. 1 second. All right, next. Pilate delivers Jesus to be crucified. This is still Mark, mind you. So this would be Mark 15:6. Now at the feast, he used to release for them one prisoner for whom they asked. And among the rebels in prison who had committed murder in the insurrection, there was a man called Barabbas. And the crowd came up and began to ask Pilate to do as he usually did for them. And he answered them, saying, "Do you want me to release for you the king of the Jews?" For he perceived that it was out of envy that the chief priests had delivered him up. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have him released for them Barabbas instead. And Pilate again said to them, "Then what shall I do with the man you call the king of the Jews?" And they cried out again, "Crucify his ass!" And Pilate said to them, "Why? What evil has he done? Why these harsh vibes, bros?" But they shouted all the more, "Crucify that motherfucker!" So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released for them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. So Pilate was basically like, fuck Jesus, right? Fuck him. All right, going in chronological order. Now we're looking at Matthew. Jesus before Pilate. This is Matthew, I forget which chapter. Matthew. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You have said so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many things they testify against you?" But he gave him no answer, not even to a simple charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. So, again, this is Matthew copying from Mark. What Mark already laid down, he basically copied and then changed it up so that nobody knew he was copying off the work, right? Oh, chapter 27, Matthew 27. All right. And we're going to go to Matthew number 2, the second part of Matthew here. The crowd chooses Barabbas. Now, at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the crowd any one prisoner whom they wanted. And they had then a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when they had gathered, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to release for you? Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" For he knew that it was out of envy that they had delivered him up. Besides, while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for I have suffered much because of him today in a dream." This is literally the bitch, the woman, sorry. The woman woke up, had a bad dream, and is like, "You know what? Kill that motherfucker. I had a bad dream about him. He cheated on me, that some bitch." Bad dream. Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor again said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release?" And they said, "Barabbas, dipshit." Pilate said to them, "Then what shall I do with Jesus who's called Christ?" And they all said, "Let that fucker be crucified. Fuck him." "Fuck that kid." And he said, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Crucify that son bitch." So you can see here how it pretty much follows Luke to Matthew with the general course of things. Matthew is obviously adding some more information to it. He's adding a number of things. He's changing things around. We didn't hear about the wife having a dream about Jesus, and so therefore Pilate had to kill Jesus or something like that. And, you know, we got a little bit more, we get a little bit different perspective. Different things are said, for different reasons and all this other shit. So all of this really changes the dynamics that are being said here. Now, does it change the basic skeleton of what happens? No, not really. But it does have different stories. Next up is Luke. Now, Luke is the one that we really have to pay attention to because Luke is the first one that Erik is going to be mentioning tonight. Jesus before Pilate in Luke. I believe this is chapter 23. Then the whole company of them arose and brought him before Pilate. And they began to accuse him, saying, "We found this man misleading our nation and forbidding us to give tribute to Caesar, and saying that he himself is Christ, a king. So, you know, fuck him." And Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And he answered them, "You have said so." Then Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowds, "I find no guilt in this man." But they were urgent, saying, "He stirs up the people, teaching throughout all Judea, from Galilee even to this place. So, you know, fuck him. We don't like him none." And so this is, I don't think that there's actually been a declaration that Jesus is innocent before. I think in the previous two, if I'm not mistaken, there was no like, "Oh, he's innocent. We shouldn't kill this fuck." Let me open it up and read to double check real quick. I don't want to change it out on the screen. You said so. You have no answer to make. Yeah. And Mark, the first one, he doesn't say, "Oh, he's innocent" or anything like that. He doesn't declare him innocent or anything of that nature. So it's not in Mark. Let's check Matthew here. Matthew. Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear the simple charge of great?" Yeah, it wasn't here either. So Luke is the first indication that we get that Pilate declares him to be innocent. Now, why would this be? What possible reason could there be? Well, it could be that Luke was wanting to overemphasize the fact that Jesus was an innocent martyr. Like he is he's innocent and therefore being convicted or tried illegally or without reason or warrant. So it's just a way of emphasizing that particular aspect of it. And this plays into the reasons why the Messiah has to be martyred. All right, let's see. We've actually got 3 screens for Luke. So let's go to the next one. Changey. Luke 2. Jesus before Herod. Oh, well, shit. This is a major fucking departure. We haven't heard about there being any Herod in the story until we get to Luke. I wonder why that is. Jesus before Herod. When Pilate heard this, he asked whether the man was a Galilean. And when he learned that he belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him over to Herod, who was himself in Jerusalem at the time. When Herod saw Jesus, he was very glad, for he had long desired to see him, because he had heard about him, and he was hoping to see some sign done by him. So he questioned him at some length, but he made no answer. Again, overemphasizing the fact that he is going to be silent. The Messiah is silent in front of his judge and jury, I guess. The chief priests and the scribes stood by, vehemently accusing him. "Yeah, that fuck, he slept with my sister. No, fuck him. He says he's king of the Jews, but I saw his tax receipts. He ain't king." That kind of shit. And Herod with his soldiers treated him with contempt and mocked him. Then, arraying him in splendid clothing, he sent him back to Pilate. And Herod and Pilate became friends with each other that very day. For before this, they had been at an enmity with each other. Enmity? I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyways, they fucking hated each other. I mean, it's basically like Trump and Kim Jong-un. They write love letters now. And they textually tongue kiss each other on the weekends, basically. Gross. It is gross. Pilate then called together the chief priests and the rulers and the people, and he said to them, "You brought me this man who was misleading the people, and after examining him before you, behold, I did not find this man guilty of any of your charges against him. Neither did Herod, for he sent him back to us. Look, nothing deserving death has been done by him. I will therefore punish and release him." Okay, so we got a punishment and release. This, again, is something that has not been brought up before. This is a new construction by Luke, and now we're getting to the Barabbas portion of it. Luke 3. Here we go. Pilate delivers Jesus to be crucified. But they all cried out together, "Away with this man! Fuck him! Release that motherfucker Barabbas! He's a dipshit, but he's our dipshit!" A man who had been thrown into prison for an insurrection started in the city, and for murder. Again, these are sins of Israel. Murder, insurrection. Like, these are definitely the sins of Israel being described here, except the sins of Israel Israel has committed these sins on God. In this particular part, these sins have been committed by Barabbas on the Roman government. So there's definitely a parallel here. Pilate addressed them once more, desiring to release Jesus, but they kept shouting, "Crucify that fuck! Crucify him! Crucify! Crucify!" Come on, shake it with your ass. Crucify! Crucify! I'm selling merch, y'all! A third time he said to them, Why What evil has he done? I have found in him no guilt deserving of death. I will therefore punish and release him. But they were urgent, demanding with loud cries that he should be crucified, and their voices prevailed. So Pilate decided that their demand should be granted. He released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, for whom they asked, but he delivered Jesus over to their will. So again, they need a replacement for the Yom Kippur ritual. This is that replacement for it. They chose the Barabbas, who's carrying the sins of Israel, and Barabbas is going to get released, while the innocent one, the one that's not carrying these sins, he is sacrificed in order to cleanse the sins, in this case, of the whole world or of everybody. In the Yom Kippur ritual, it's to cleanse the sins. Maybe Yom Kippur is to cleanse the sins of the Israelite people. It could be the same thing. I can't remember exactly now that I think about it. So, yeah, Barabbas is released. Now, you'll notice that there are a few things here. They kind of more explicitly talk about, insurrection and murder and all this other stuff. But it's basically the same kind of story, but it's got different ways that things are happening. Pilate is being pushed around, which is very not Pilate, if you know anything about Pilate and history and all that kind of good shit. So, all of this is very not anti-historical, but it's very ahistorical. None of this is actually what would have happened if anything like this had happened. There was no ritual for Pilate to perform or anything like that. This was not a thing that was done in Israel. All right, now that was Luke. Now we've got John. And John is just pretty short. It's just one thing. I'm not that short, but this is a short section. Thank you, honey. So my kingdom is not of this world, is what the section's called. So it's so Pilate entered his quarters again and called Jesus and said to him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you say this of your own accord, or did others say it to you about me?" Pilate answered, "Am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not of this world." Sorry. "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would have been fighting. That I might not have been delivered over to the Jews. But my kingdom is not from this world." Then Pilate said to him, "So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. For this purpose I was born, and for the purpose I have come into this world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice." He pounded on the concrete, or stone. Pounded on. Pilate said to him, "What is truth?" Getting fucking damn philosophical here. After he said this, he went back outside to the Jews and told them, "I find no guilt in him, but you have a custom that I should release one man for you at the Passover. So, do you want me to release the king of the Jews?" They cried out again, "Not this dipshit! We want Barabbas! He's our dipshit! We like that motherfucker! He plays cards real good." Now Barabbas was a robber. And here, he was a robber. Not insurrection, not murder. He was a robber. Let me, hold on. Let me, I don't want to be accused of taking shit out of context here. So I'm going to pull this up because it cuts off at verse 40. Was a robber. Then Pilate took Jesus to be flogged. There is a little bit of note next to robber there, B, or an insurrectionist. Okay. I honestly don't know the Greek of John. Let's see. Greek interlinear John 1840. But Barabbas. Okay. Let's see. They cried out then again, saying, not this one, but Barabbas. Was now Barabbas an insurrectionist? Okay. All right. So that's a shitty translation on the ESV there, because it does say insurrectionist, not robber. That's a little bit misleading there, how they phrase that. So he's still an insurrectionist, although now he's not a murderer. He's just an insurrectionist. I mean, I guess you could probably make the argument that an insurrectionist could be a murderer. I mean, the insurrectionists here on January 6th, they were definitely murderers, some of them, not all of them. So I guess you couldn't say, oh, you're an insurrectionist, therefore you are a murderer. That would be kind of thinking this out live on air, you know, working through my logic here. So just because you're an insurrectionist does not mean you're necessarily a murderer, but that connotation could have existed at the time. So still, this is the sin of Israel. They are releasing the guy to carry the sin of Israel off, and then they're killing and doing the whole blood ritual with the innocent dude. Hold on, I just gotta check my sugar real quick. Yep, I'm doing good. All right, so now that's all of it. That's all 4 stories. Now, as we noticed, do they have the same basic skeletal structure? I would say yes. They all have the same basic outline. Jesus gets brought to Pilate. Pilate questions him, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus says, oh, well, you say I am. With the exception of John, all the other Jesuses, Mark, Matthew, and Luke, they have Jesus just remaining silent like a good person. Don't talk to the police in this particular context right here. Being brought in like this, definitely don't trap yourself into that situation. So he was doing good, don't talk. But then obviously in John has a very verbal Jesus. Like the Jesus in John basically kicks open a door. What's up, bitches? I'm the Son of God, motherfucker. Hope y'all are ready for me to take care of this sin and shit. And like, that's pretty much the vibe that he's given off the entire Gospel of John. So you get how John is a completely different story than the rest of the Gospels. There's a reason for this. John had the other Gospels, so John deliberately made Jesus not refuse to say anything. Jesus continued to talk because the Jesus in John is the antithesis of a lot of the things that the other Jesuses had established. And we know this by a lot of different ways, that John was looking to overturn a lot of the things that were established in the previous Gospels. So that's the reason why you get such a different Jesus in John. This is the stark contrast here and the one that we're going to be covering in the video. Now that y'all have had that little bit of education about the differences in all of the stories and everything like that, how they're different, the fundamental differences between John and the Synoptic Gospels. So, now let's get to the video. What is this, like an hour 20 in? Let's do it. Y'all should have heard Casey. She was like, yep, tired of this bullshit.
In Luke's story of Jesus at Pilate's trial, there is a baffling sequence of events that sparks questions. Luke 23, 1-4 reads, Then the whole body of them got up and brought him before Pilate, and they began to accuse him, saying, We found this man misleading our nation and forbidding to pay taxes to Caesar, and saying that he himself is Christ, a king. So Pilate asked him, saying, Are you the king of the Jews? And he answered him and said, It is as you say. Then Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowds, I find no guilt in this man. Whoa.
Okay. So, whoa. All right. Okay. He's got some issues here. Now the ESV basically says what Erik is saying here. He says it's 2-4. So the ESV version, I'm not sure which version that Erik is reading, and they began to accuse him, saying, We found this man misleading our nation and forbidding us to give tribute to Caesar, and saying that he himself is Christ, a king. Right? And Pilate asked him, Are you the king of the Jews? And he answered him, You have said so. It is as you say. So a little bit different there. but they were urgent. So the 2 through 4. And he answered, then the Pilate said to the priests and the crowds, I find no guilt in this man. Right. Okay. So that's, I'm kind of curious. Sorry, I just wanted to double check right there because some of the words are different, but in any case, it's saying the same thing. So it's curious to me that Erik starts with Luke. I don't know why he does this. We have previous versions of this story, and in chronological order, you could see how the story develops over time. Mark starts out first, and Mark has a little bit of story elements in it. Matthew elaborates a little bit more. Luke takes both Mark and Matthew, and he changes it up a little bit more. And so it's just curious to me that you wouldn't highlight the differences there, like the differences in what is said. Because let me go back to Mark real quick. Mark, as far as delivering him to Pilate, basically says all the same stuff, I guess. It's just kind of curious that he chose Luke. Pilate asked him, are you king of the Jews? He answered, you have said so. The priest accused him of many things, and Pilate again asked him, have you no answer to make? See how many charges they bring against you. But Jesus made no further answer, so that Pilate was amazed. And then Luke doesn't even talk about Pilate being amazed. He doesn't talk about Jesus not speaking. I'm kind of curious. Let's see if we go on to the second, my second screenshot of it that we covered earlier. Jesus talks a little bit more. Hold on. Sorry, that's Luke. He's going over Luke right now. Matthew. Matthew has the greatly amazed thing. That's absent in Luke. It's just there's a very key difference here in that Pilate is amazed that he doesn't say anything. And this is to heavily emphasize the fact that Jesus is to remain silent in front of his accusers, right? So it's kind of interesting the differences that we're noticing here already.
Oh, hold on. Hit rewind for a second. In Luke's account, the crowd accuses Jesus of a serious crime, claiming that he's a threat to Rome by claiming that he's a king. Pilate, the Roman governor, takes it seriously enough to ask Jesus if he's the king of the Jews. Jesus responds in a surprising way. Several English versions translate his answer a little bit differently. One version says, it is as you say, which is like saying, yep, you said it, and agreeing. Another interpretation is that Jesus is vaguely refusing to answer with, well, you say so. Jesus' ambiguity here is pretty bold, especially given that this...
What is based Giga Jesus? This is some cringy shit coming from a Christian apologist here. I mean, Erik always has the cringiest, little animation things coming on over here, but fucking based Giga Jesus? I'm 40 years old. Erik is older than me, and this is too old for me. Or this is too young. I just don't get this reference. But in any case, there's different ways to say it, but I mean, he's just saying, oh, you say that I am. So it's not actually Jesus claiming anything, and he's still effectively remaining silent.
This is a life-threatening accusation, but whether Pilate got Jesus's bold, you're right, I'm a king, or the sly and sassy, hey, you said it, not me, Luke doesn't explain why Pilate suddenly declared Jesus innocent to the crowd.
I mean, because he questioned him, and Jesus was like, you say I am. That's why. Is there any question here for you, hon? Oh, sorry, were you not listening? Well, because he's like, oh, why did he proclaim him an innocent man? And it's they claimed he's saying that he's the king. He asked Jesus, are you the king? Well, I'm not saying it, but you're saying it is essentially what Jesus says. And so Pilate's like, oh, okay. And then he comes back out. There's no fault here. He's not claiming to be king. Like, how is this like something like, oh, well, why did he proclaim him to be innocent? I mean, the entire interrogation's right there. It's a really short interrogation. Like, oh my God. Like, there's no, like, I don't have a question about it. I don't know if anybody first reading it has a question about it. Like, he's not claiming to be king. And so therefore, he hasn't broken any kind of laws or anything like that. Even if claiming to be king of the Jews would have been something illegal, like to the point of being crucified and killed.
I mean, why not grill Jesus more here? Why did he act so nonchalant about Jesus' reply, given the gravity of the situation? And why go all the way in proclaiming Jesus guilt-free of sedition? This whole sequence of events is baffling all by itself.
Not really. It's not baffling at all. But I could see how somebody might have a problem with it. Obviously, Erik does. Or at least he's trying to point out that there's a problem with it. So what's to prevent a Christian or a community of Christians reading Luke's gospel in between the time that John is writing and Luke is writing, and then coming up with a more verbose dialogue here? I feel like the community that eventually produced the Gospel of John, they weren't satisfied with the previous explanations for this trial in front of Pilate. It was always unsatisfying for them. So, you know what they did? They changed the story to make it make sense to them. But they had to change it in a way that still made sense because you had these other popular gospels going around. They've already established what happened, so they have to continue with the basic skeletal structure of the story. Like, what I'm saying is that John knew what Luke said and then crafted his story would also be able to compensate for Luke's story also existing. It's like, oh, Luke's story exists and it says this. Well, no, that's not the entire story. Here's the real story right here. So, I mean, these are designed coincidences. Like, this is a designed thing.
Well, John casually spills the beans on the other part of that story. Flipping over to John 18, we read, "Therefore Pilate entered again the praetorium and summoned Jesus and said to him, 'Are you the king of the Jews?' Jesus answered, 'Are you saying this of your own initiative, or did others tell you this about me?' Pilate answered, 'I'm not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests delivered you to me. What have you done?' Jesus answered, 'My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then my servants would be fighting so that I wouldn't have been handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not of this world.' Therefore Pilate said to him, 'So are you a king?' Jesus answered, 'You say correctly that I'm a king. For this I have been born, and for this I have come into the world to testify to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice.' Pilate said to him, 'What is truth?' And when he said this, he went out again to the Jews and said to them, 'I find no guilt in him.'"
So, how does this make it better? How does this explain it any better? Like, you extended the same conversation, right? To effectively communicate the same things over and over again with the addition of, oh, my kingdom's not of this world. Like, that was the addition that was made there. And so I guess for Erik, that clears it up. Oh, he's not claiming to be a king of this world. It's of a different world. And so, like, that's the difference here, like that extra theological thing. But if you're going to take that as being a complete historical account that meshes perfectly fine with the previous story in Luke, you're going to have a bad time. Hold on, let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Let's see, here's Luke 1. Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He answered, "You have said so." Then Pilate said to the chief priests, "I find no guilt in this man," but they were urgent in saying that he stirs up the people, blah, 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 bliggity, blah. Right? Remove that, yes. Let's go to Luke 2. Erik conveniently leaves this little bit out. where Pilate sends Jesus to Herod. And then, sorry, over there on the vertical stream, you guys aren't seeing what's up on the screen right now, but I'm just reading off what Luke is saying here. That he sends him off to Herod, and Herod grills him even more, and then sends him back to Pilate, and then Pilate then declares him innocent yet again, guilty of the charges against him. And so he's acting like, oh, well, Pilate just didn't grill him long enough. Well, no, but Pilate ships him off to Herod, who then grills him long enough, and then sends him back after becoming buddy pen pals, secret tongue twister buddies with Pilate. And, then he also, again, declares him to be innocent. So, I mean, he's acting like, oh, well, this is confusing. Why didn't they grill him longer or harder or anything like that? Well, I mean, they did. They did grill him longer. Like, they didn't just be like, oh, well, he's innocent. No, he's not. Fuck that shit. It's like, okay, well, I'll send him to Herod, and Herod will definitely, chap that ass, and then we'll see if he really is innocent. So, I mean, Luke has a much longer explanation than John does about it. John decided to compress all of that into the one story and add this whole idea of an external kingdom that Jesus is supposed to be king over, which is part of the theology in John. It would make no sense for John to have a theology where Jesus was claiming to be anything other than the king of heaven and all this other stuff. Whereas the other gospels have like this whole more of an adoptionist kind of idea that starts with Mark, but it continues all throughout, this whole idea of being king of the Jews, not a celestial king of the Jews, but like the final king of the Jews, like literal king of the Jews. John has a more celestial idea about Jesus's divine nature. So it just simply wouldn't work the way that Luke and the other synoptics have portrayed Jesus.
So John fills in the gaps that Luke leaves in the dialogue, but this doesn't look designed at all. According to John,
this doesn't look designed at all, other than the fact that John had Luke's gospel and potentially all the other gospels, and there's many other points of contact between Luke's gospel and John's gospel, showing that John was definitely using Luke and the other epistle or the other gospels in order to craft his story, which definitely leaves it open to the more than likely possibility that John was just copying from Luke and changing things in order to be the antithesis of what Luke was saying. Because if you'll notice, the big difference here, and the real kicker, I'm going to set my thing down because it's making a lot of noise. The big kicker here is the fact that in the synoptic gospels, because they're more dependent upon certain other scriptural references, they have Jesus remaining silent. In John's gospel, Jesus is like, fuck that noise. I am going to defend myself. I am going to rattle off that I'm a badass. I have like the nuts in my hand, and I know what I've got, and I'm just going to fuck all of you up with my logic. Right? Like, I know exactly how to respond to this. All right? So, I mean, there's a stark difference here. And it's in the fact that Jesus does not remain silent. So if you're going to assert that John's gospel elucidates more on it, then you have to also agree that Luke and the other synoptics are lying because they have a different fucking story. Now, are there some points of parallel here? Like, are there some common shared points? Sure. But the fact that Jesus doesn't remain silent is a big fucking departure. It's a big departure not only from the story, but it's a big departure from Scripture. Like the prophecies that are supposed to be about Jesus that the early Jewish Christians were using to construct these stories. Like, it's a big departure. The fact that Jesus doesn't remain silent in John shows that John was trying to make this Jesus the antithesis of those other Jesuses.
Jesus does confirm that he was born to be a king, but he makes it crystal clear that his kingdom doesn't operate on the same terms as earthly ones, ruling out of the use of force to achieve his goals. Pilate seems to brush off Jesus as some harmless religious nut, leading him to confidently declare to the Jewish leaders that he finds no guilt in Jesus.
I find it incredibly interesting, and I don't know if Erik is going to watch this like all the way through, just the response portion of this, but I find it interesting that he leaves out the whole fact that in Luke, Pilate ships Jesus off to Herod, who then grills him even more, and then reports back to Pilate that, yeah, he's innocent of these charges. He didn't do anything. Like, we didn't get anything out of him. He remained silent the entire time. Like, we grilled him. We even dressed him in pretty clothes, and he still didn't talk. And, and then Pilate, again, reaffirming that he's an innocent man. So I find it incredibly interesting that he didn't even bring that up and acted like there was just this very superficial questioning, which does happen in Mark and Matthew. Mind you, both Mark and Matthew, they have a very short grilling process, and it pretty much just amounts to, hey, they say this shit about you. Is that true? You're saying it. They're saying it. I'm not saying it. Is basically how it comes off. And Pilate's like, oh, okay. Well, y'all don't really have evidence that he's doing this, so, he's innocent. Unless you can bring some other evidence. That's the feeling that I get from it. And I feel like that's the feeling that most people would get from it. Obviously, the Christians in John's community was like, wait the fuck up. Hold on. That's not how Jesus would act. Remaining silent and a bitch? No. Our Jesus has the balls of an elephant. Or wait, no. The balls of a blue whale.
But here's the kicker. In John's account, Pilate's unexpected question to Jesus about him being the king of the Jews seems to come absolutely out of nowhere. The crowds in John's gospel never accuse him of sedition. So while Luke presents the accusation, but not the full response, John offers the complete answer, but leaves out the initial accusation.
Then that means that both of them are incoherent as fuck. Let me go back to John. Let's see. John says, so Pilate entered his quarters and called Jesus and said to him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" So, let's see. John. See, then they led Jesus from the house of Caiaphas to the governor's house. It was early in the morning. They themselves did not enter the governor's house, the governor's quarters, so that they would not be defiled, but could eat on Passover. So Pilate went outside to meet him. "What accusation do you bring against this man?" They answered him. "If this man were not doing evil, would we not have delivered him over to you?" Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves to and judge him by your own law." The Jews said to him, "It is not lawful for us to put anyone to death." This was to fulfill the word that Jesus had spoken, to show what kind of death he was going to die. Okay, so Pilate entered his quarters and called Jesus and said to him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you say this of your own accord, or did others say it to you about me?" And Pilate answered, "Am I a Jew? Your own nation and chief priests have delivered you over to me. What have you done?" So yeah, I will agree with Erik here that there is no accusation of him being the king of the Jews. But at the same time, when John was written, it was already 3 times reaffirmed in the Gospels that he was being accused of being called the king of the Jews. And I kind of feel like in the Gospel of John, he would already have been established as being called the king of the Jews. Because like I said before, John's Jesus, he was going around busting through doors being like, "I'm Big Dick King over here, and you need to follow me or else you're going to burn in hell." That's just the Jesus in John. So, it's already established in John that he was calling himself the king, or that, he was being called the king of the Jews or whatever. And so, I kind of feel like at that point, it wasn't necessary for, the chief priest to call him that. Like, it was already well established that that's what was being said about Jesus, or what Jesus was saying. Because very obviously, Jesus wasn't shying away from the accusation that he was calling himself a king in John. In John, Jesus is pretty much just saying, oh yeah, totally, bro. I'm calling myself the king, but of the magical sky wizard nation. That's the one that I'm king of, so not of down here in all this pissy, shitty area that y'all got going on. No. Special sky wizard nation up there. That's the one that I'm king of. So Jesus never said, oh, I'm not the king, right? And all that. He's like, oh, I'm just the king of the special sky wizard nation. Like, that's what he was saying. So, I mean, I feel like Erik is trying to create more of a puzzle piece than actually exists. Because leading up to this point, it's very obvious that he was calling himself the king. Jesus doesn't even deny being the king of the Jews. It's just, what nation exactly, or where does this nation exist that he is claiming to be king, is essentially what is being discussed here between Pilate and Jesus. So I feel like Erik is kind of fabricating this whole puzzle piece kind of idea that, there's no accusation. Well, there's no accusation because everybody fucking knows what Jesus is saying, because he's going around showing his big dick off and, telling everybody that he's the fucking king of the Jews. Like, that's what's happening in John. Like, it's already known.
It's like a narrative tag team, with each holding a crucial piece of the puzzle, but in a totally unplanned way. John probably didn't glance at Luke and go, this gap seems really odd. Let me just slip in that Jesus is a spiritual king.
No. That's not how it happened. John was like, look at Luke's dipshitty Jesus. I'm going to make my Jesus better. He's going to walk around and he's going to tell everybody that he's king of the Jews, and he's not fucking afraid of it. You know what? Also, my Jesus isn't a bitch. So my Jesus is going to go up to Pilate, get him right in his face and be like, yeah, I'm king of the sky wizard place. Like, that's essentially what happened. So, I mean, it's like John was like, this Jesus seems to be a bit weak. I'm going to buff him up a little bit. He's going to roll a nat 20, and he's just going to be, risen up this place. Jesus is risen. Anyways, Jesus has this swag while he's talking to Pilate, and that's crafted by John. That's designed by John. It would make no sense for Jesus to act the same way in John's book. It would make no sense for Jesus to act the same way that he does in the Synoptics, because that's just not the Jesus's MO in John at all. So yes, John looked at Luke and was like, this guy's a little bitch. I'm going to make mine not a little bitch. And so he just crafted it that way. That is the more likely situation, considering that we know that John had access to the other Gospels and that he used the other Gospels to craft his stories. So, yes, he's definitely not going to watch it now. He's going to hear that first, Jesus is a bitch, and then he's going to jump out of here.
So that Pilate knows that he's not a troublemaker, but leave out the parts about the crowd accusing him of sedition. The apparent casualness in the sources, not aiming to reference or compliment one another, serves as a marker of truth.
I don't understand this. The apparent casualness in the sources. There's this whole criteria of casualness that they use all the time, and I don't understand it. They don't ever really define it. This is the closest that I've seen to a definition of this criteria. Not aiming to reference or compliment one another. But, I mean, they do. The stark difference between Jesus is a reference. Like, you can tell that he definitely knew how the other Jesuses were portrayed. And so he came back and he was like, my Jesus ain't like that. So we're going to make Jesus a bit more of a badass. It's basically Arnold Schwarzenegger as Jesus right now, right? Like, that is a nod to the other Gospels. And it definitely doesn't serve as a marker of truth. Just because two people made up two stories that basically follow the same kind of thing doesn't mean that they're true. If that's the case, then the movie Volcano and Dante's Peak are fucking true stories about the same event in different places. You buy that? She buys it. That's canon now.
These subtle, unnoticed, undesigned coincidences defy the intentions of a faker. But wait a second, because once again, there's more here. John 18:10 reveals that
I don't know if anybody's actually looked this up, but Billy Mays never actually said that. That's the meme. And so being that Erik is kind of a meme lord almost, he uses the meme of it, but I come to find out that's not actually where that quote, this is really a side thing. That's not where it comes from. Actually, but wait, there's more. That actually comes from Scary Movie. And it was said by one of the Wayans. Is it Marlon Wayans? I can't remember which Wayans said it, but in the Scary Movie, he said it. But wait, there's more. Billy Mays never actually said that. Just put that out there. A little bit of interesting, like pop culture sort of history there.
Peter sliced off the ear of the high priest's servant. However, remember in John 18:36 that Jesus tells Pilate, "If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would have been fighting." Whoa. Seriously? Doesn't cutting off someone's ear with a sword count as fighting, Jesus?
I mean, yeah, they overreacted, but then Jesus glued it back on with his super glue hands, right? So, I mean, like, Jesus was like, whoa, calm down there, Bucky. And then he, like, he did the whole thing. And so, yeah, I mean, like, if I feel like what Jesus's point was that he told his people not to fight, and therefore they're not fighting. So if he was making a claim for the Roman crown, they would have been fighting. Like, Jesus would have been like, "Let me heal you, bro." Jesus would have been like, "You can't hear shit now, can you, bitch?"
The plot twist comes in Luke 22:51, where Jesus, intervening in the violence, says, "No more of this." He then touches the wounded servant's ear, healing him. This twist in the tale means Peter couldn't be nabbed for the assault, and Jesus' claim holds firm without contradiction because there's just no lingering physical proof of the skirmish. But get this, John completely skips over the point where Jesus heals the guy's ear, so he's probably not throwing in this detail about his followers being ready to fight based on Luke. And obviously, Luke couldn't know what John would explain later, nor could he have deliberately set up something to be an explanation of something in John's gospel. In genuine, detailed accounts of real events, told by folks who actually knew their stuff, we'd naturally anticipate this kind of interlocking info.
Again, all of this is more likely explained by the fact that John knew Luke and the other Gospels, but specifically Luke, knew Luke's account and knew that had happened, and then he wrote his with the idea that had happened. Even if he doesn't mention it, it still influenced how he wrote. Like, he's presenting it as if, oh, well, John wouldn't have fabricated this. How do you fucking know that? How do you know that John wouldn't have fabricated stuff? There's a lot of like just presumed innocence that's given over in these undesigned coincidences. Like, oh, he wouldn't have fabricated stuff. He was the Apostle John. He wouldn't have done shit like that, because if he did shit like that, he'd fucking go to hell and burn forever. But so he didn't do that. Obviously, Apostle John is not burning in hell right now. But the thing is that, Well, yeah, they don't fucking know. Apostle John could be burning now. Who the fuck knows? But there was no Apostle John that actually wrote the Gospel of John. In fact, at the very end of the Gospel of John, it actually identifies the source of the information as being most likely Lazarus, which is an interesting thing to point out because it's one of the ways that we know that John had access and had read Luke's gospel, because John reifies the Lazarus that appears in Luke and makes him a real person that Jesus resurrects in John. And in John, the miracle of resurrection converts many people to believe. But in Luke, the whole message is that even if Jesus resurrects a dead dude, nobody's going to believe it. Like they need to believe on faith and all this other stuff. But so it's a totally antithetical like story there. There's no way that John didn't know about Luke's Lazarus enough to like complete an entire antithesis, like a Lazarus that is antithetical to the entire message of the original Lazarus. So John and Luke knew their stuff. John knew Luke's gospel. Luke knew the previous gospels. And so John used all that knowledge in order to craft his so that it seemed like it fit better with what he was wanting to preach. That's a far more likely and plausible explanation than this casualness criteria that has not actually been defined whatsoever.
Despite skeptics' strong protests that the Gospels are just fiction, this doesn't read like fiction at all.
It just doesn't read like fiction at all. The motherfucker raises from the dead, but it's not fiction, y'all. He's a goddamn space wizard, and he proudly proclaims it all across Judea, but nobody anywhere else records anybody proclaiming to be a fucking magical space wizard. Obviously, this is true story.
I hope you've been enjoying this series on undesigned coincidences.
I really haven't. Thank you there, Eric. This is the only one I've watched, but I will definitely look at your other ones maybe. That's going to be it for the show tonight. We do have some Skeptic Mafia comments to go through. But as far as the video for tonight, I was not at all convinced by Eric's video. I'm not at all convinced by the undesigned coincidences. I feel like the undesigned coincidences can be easily explained by the fact that each gospel author had access to the previous gospels, with Mark having access to Paul. And each one of them crafted their stories with knowledge of the previous works that were around. And so John, being in the 2nd century, was using all of the available material in order to craft his no shit taking Jesus. And so with that in mind, that makes any of these undesigned coincidences using John's gospel definitely a designed thing. It's not undesigned. And this whole idea of casualness, I feel like that needs to be fleshed out a little bit more. What does it mean to be casual? What does it mean to be nonchalant? Like, you can ask them these questions, but they'll just give you some kind of analogy about, somebody having a wreck at an intersection and two people having, two different stories, but they mesh when you put them together and it provides a fuller picture. Like, they'll give you that, but that doesn't actually explain what the fuck they mean by casual. So I feel like all that needs to be fleshed out a little bit more, but I really don't think that even if you fleshed out that idea more, you would even have a coherent argument for the eyewitness accounts being in the Gospels. So that's going to be it for me tonight. That's it for the video. And I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you will, please go down below. Let me know what you thought about this undesigned coincidence. Do you think it actually is an undesigned coincidence? Or do you think that maybe they need to go back to the drawing board a little bit, figure some better shit out here, like cross the T's, dot the I's, find better evidence? Do some shit like that. Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens. But wait, don't go, because we do have the Skeptic Mafia comments. Now, over there on the vertical stream, you guys are not going to be able to view the comments. That's just over here on the main screen. So if you want to, come to the channel if you want to see the Skeptic Mafia comments. But we are going to be heading off of the vertical live stream now, so I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Bye, vertical stream. And we're off on the vertical. I just need to actually hit the end button because it doesn't do it itself. There we go. Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Yep, that's done. Whew. Whew, I hope everybody's having a great weekend. I know I'm having a pretty good weekend. Other than all of the news shit I had to sift through today. Like, that was just fucking horrible. Posts. We don't have that many Skeptic Mafia comments today, so we'll be done pretty quick here. All right, so first up, we got Trickster, who says, amazing how when he talks about Luke, he pretty much reads it right out of the Bible. But when he talks about John, he pretty much says, this is what John meant. Why not just read it from the Bible and let John speak for himself? Maybe the reason Luke and John's stories are different is because they didn't know each other's stories or even each other for that fact. Needless to say how unconvincing this is, someone didn't bring his A game. Definitely didn't. Although there are a lot of indications that John did know what Luke's gospel said and even used Luke's gospel in order to create his own. That's the only point of disagreement I have with that. But I mean, I think that like the reason that you provided there is far more likely than like eyewitness accounting. Like, and that's how bad the undesigned coincidences are. That even supposing that John and Luke didn't know each other or didn't know each other's works and creating a similar story is not that far-fetched. I mean, we've seen it happen. Dante's Peak and, let's see, there's Dante's Peak and Volcano. Then there's also Armageddon and Deep Impact. There's A Bug's Life and the other bug movie. Huh? Ants. A Bug's Life and Ants.
What about the magician ones?
Oh, the magician ones. So there's the illusionist and... Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember the Prestige, the Illusionist, and the Prestige. Yep. So I mean, you know, obviously, those things happen. Like people think of those things all the time. So I mean, it's perfectly reasonable for them to not know anything about each other, but then produce similar stories. I think that John knowing Luke is more likely than them not knowing each other, but them not knowing each other is far more likely than them being eyewitnesses. Then we got Tomato Cuddles. Tomato Cuddles has ASCII for us. So I started to watch it, but then quickly developed a headache. No, seriously, I have a massive migraine I'm dealing with, so that wasn't helping in the slightest. So I figured instead I'll just wait till you cover it tonight if I'm not in bed, or I might lay down and watch while I'm in bed, whatevs. Anyway, enough complaining about migraine season. It's ASCII time! And that's... Oh, is that never going to give you up? Rickroll! It's a Rickroll. Never going to give you up. Never going to let you down. Never going to run around and desert you. Never going to make you cry. Never going to say goodbye. I don't know. Anyways, that was just for y'all that are still watching. Yes, I just rickrolled you and the audience. Congrats. That's how low I've sunk. But if you don't want to get rickrolled like a boss, go ahead and give that like button a big lick, as well as the subscribe button, the bell. Ah, fuck it. Just lick the entire phone and I'll platonically lick you. Anyway, I'm tired and have a massive headache. I'm nursing, so getting on with it. Casey is always right. Eat your goddamn fruits and veggies, drink some fucking water, and bring back platonic cuddling. Tomato out. Thank you there, Tomato. Appreciate you. Clean your phones and don't lick them is what Casey says. Mr. Handshake just says, my head hurts now. Which was the same thing that Tomato was suffering from, so I'm sorry about that. Well, that's going to be it for the live stream tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did, going over everything. Anyways, I appreciate you guys coming by and watching and everything like that. I've got a lot of shit that I need to get done tomorrow, so I don't know if I'll be able to game stream, but I might play some poker later or something like that. We'll see. But in any case, I hope that you guys have a lovely weekend, and we will see you heathens later. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.